5/24/2024, Middle East, International Christian Concern. Every month, International Christian Concern sources in the Middle East witness Christians leaving the region. The rates are especially alarming in countries with high levels of conflict and economic collapse. Places such as Iraq, Syria, the Palestinian territories, and to a lesser degree, Egypt and Lebanon have seen a continuation of the historic exodus of Christians during the past decade alone. The decline is especially significant when one considers that these communities are among the oldest Christian communities in the world. That is fact. Oh shit, sorry. Good thing. Oh. Why didn't you switch automatically, thing? All right. Okay. That is the truth of the matter. Christianity started in Israel. Okay? That's where Christianity started. It spread throughout the Middle East and Africa long before it fucking got to Europe, right? The Romans are the ones who crucified Jesus Christ because they were against Christianity, which they later adopted. Right? Egypt, Lebanon, Christians in the Middle East, those Christian groups have been around way longer than the rest of Christianity. Okay? Because they're in the progenitor region of Christianity. Lebanon is I believe Lebanon is predominantly Christian. Whoops. Whoops. Jesus. Jesus. Oh, never mind. They're no longer the majority. According to a 2022 analysis by the Pew Research Center, the demographic landscape of Lebanon reveals a Christian population estimated at 43.4%, with Muslims constituting the majority at 57.6%. Lebanon originally was predominantly Christian, but this is what happens when you allow Islam in your country, right? And it's not because Islam's a good religion. It's actually because it's a violent religion. Because over the years, you're going to have Islamic extremists killing Christians, gaining more power, pushing Christians out, making life worse and worse for Christians. So Christians end up leaving. Okay? What is that? So, like, if you notice the difference between the 2012 study and the 2022 study, Christianity has dropped almost 3% in the country, and it's almost gone up 4% in Islamic. All right? But anyways, back to the fucking story. Okay? The Middle East used to be Christian. And then there were a lot of very bloody conflicts from Islam slaughtering Christians throughout the Middle East and stuff like that. But so this is the thing, like Iraq, right? Iraq's Christian population, they want to blame it on the United States toppling Saddam Hussein, and that does play a role. Okay? But Iraq's Christian population has been decreasing since it was taken over by Islam. Okay? Saddam Hussein did protect Christians because Christians in Iraq, right, just like Christians in Egypt, are typically more closely related genetically to the actual indigenous ancestry of the region, right? Like the Christians in Iraq speak Sumerian, right? Like they know the Sumerian language, right? But it's been dying over time. But Saddam Hussein was protecting Christians even though he was a dictator, and he was he was Sunni, so he was killing Shia Muslims and stuff like that. And after he died, Shia Islam started to intrude more in Iraq, and malcontents in Sunni Islam started taking over, and Christians started getting slaughtered by Muslims. Um, so they've been fleeing Iraq, and it's actually funny because Alina Habba, one of fucking Trump's attorneys, her family actually immigrated. She's Iraqi, right? Like they immigrated from Iraq to the United States because of the toppling of Saddam Hussein, because then life became unattainable for Christians. Amid all the modern political forms that have shaped the Middle East geopolitical order, the Christian presence in the region predates Islam, Zionism, Arab nationalism, European colonialism, Western Christianity, and the modern missions movement. It also gives us a unique perspective on geopolitical forces and persecution. While Middle Eastern Christians have endured waves of turmoil and direct persecution since the first century, the past 20 years have an undeniable effect on its influence and its demographics in the region. Quantitatively, an outline of some basic statistics gives us a part of the picture. During the breakup of the Ottoman Empire in the 1910s, widely considered the birth of the modern Middle East, the Ottoman Middle East was, by some estimates, as much as 20% Christian. Now the ratio is roughly 3% to 4% in the same territory. A decline of 16%, okay, in 115 years. Um, Both Iraq's and Syria's Christians have shrunk by somewhere between 75%, 75 to 85% in the past 20 years. And Palestine's Christian community is finding itself at threat, highlighted by Gaza's Christians suffering near extinction in the latest Israeli-Palestinian war. While many events have helped bring about this decline, the Armenian genocide between 1914 and 1918, which left 2 million Armenians, Greeks, and Assyrians dead across the Ottoman Empire, started what has become perhaps the most devastating century in the Middle Eastern Christian history. Following the end of the Ottoman Empire, the Sykes-Picot Agreement, followed by the post-European colonial era rise of Zionism and Arab nationalism, gave birth to the creation of borders that left Christian communities fragmented in a series of Israeli-Palestinian conflicts that have had devastating effects on Christian communities in the Holy Land, Jordan, and Lebanon. More recently, the rise of Salafi Islam and its extremist efforts to return to a 7th century brand of Islam has led to groups such as Al Qaeda and Islamic State group, which have both targeted and killed Christians in Iraq and Syria, driving survivors out of the region. Continued shadow conflicts between the Islamist Iranian regime and its proxy groups across the region against Israel and the United States and their allies are shaping the current geopolitical environment in a way that does little to stop the flow of Christians from the Middle East. As the number of Christians in the Middle East declines, persecution against those who remain is increasing. The Christian exodus leaves fewer Christians who are friends, neighbors, and coworkers to members of the Muslim majority in these countries. As a result, fewer human connections, interactions, humanized Christians seen as the other. People often fear what they do not understand, making human communal interaction crucial for legitimate coexistence, tolerance, and interfaith dialogue. Without a presence of Christians in the workplace, neighborhoods, in the forum of society every day, Muslim citizens will not have opportunities to learn from and interact with their fellow Christian citizens in healthy ways because they don't want them there. This can lead to skewed views of Christianity through misinformation in media, education curricula, and in Muslim mosques and seminaries. Common misconceptions about Christians abound among Muslims in the Middle East, such as Christians worshiping three gods, that the Trinity is the Father, Son, and Mary, and that the Bible is corrupt and Christians are immoral deceivers, giving rise to prejudice and sometimes tragically violence towards Christians. This is actually taught in the Quran. They specifically reference not to talk about the Trinity. They specifically um quote the reference of the Trinity, but Christianity does not worship three gods. Okay? Christianity worships one God and views um the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost as all aspects of God. They believe in one God, but the Quran does teach that Christians follow the Trinity, right? Um, but whatever. Anyways, persecution.org, it's an international Christian concern. or sorry, persecution.org, right? Um, Christians are persecuted across the world. Even here in the United States, the the left, the only religious group that the left attacks are Christians. They don't they don't attack Hindu. They don't they or sorry, I mean it's Christians and Jews, right? They hate the Jews and they hate Christians, but they don't attack Islam. They don't disrespect Islam. They don't disrespect or attack Hindu or anything like that. Uh so and obviously Christianity is extremely close to Judaism, right? Like it was formed from Judaism. Okay? And these are the only religions that they attack. They don't attack any other religion. Just Christian based fucking religions. And they don't really talk about they don't actually really attack Judaism actually. They just attack the state of Israel, right? The nation of Israel. That's it. But then because they're extremists in their hatred towards Israel, they blame Jews for Israel and the actions of Israel and stuff like that. Okay? So Christians actually are the only persecuted fucking religion in the United States, a country founded on Christian values in mind, right? Um, but this is me just highlighting evidence that Christians are actually persecuted globally. There's websites and stuff like that for it. They point to different issues, and it is just the truth, right? Christians are persecuted in the Middle East. They are denied rights in their own nations. Okay, so